McIntosh, president of the Club for Growth. So, David, great to have you here. Do you agree with Rudy Giuliani that going forward in his second term, we don't need tax cuts so much as just more deregulation?
Well, and Rudy's pointed out the big contrast, right? Trump wants to have further tax cuts, and Biden wants to increase them, which would tank the economy. I think we need both. I think more deregulation, he's exactly right. That will free up American businesses to get started again, hire people back. It costs about $15,000 per employee to comply with all the federal regulations. If we can trim off, a couple thousand or 5,000 of that, that's more people they can hire back faster. But the tax cuts, I would target them to the folks who were left out of the last tax bill, particularly the small businesses who run it on their own tax form. They didn't really get a break, and they're the ones that are struggling the most in this shutdown of the economy. So I think there's a need for both, and I'm glad that President Trump's campaigning on both.
David, if we really want to stimulate growth, wouldn't be coming to terms with China do an awful lot of good? Because if you look at the record, for the first 2 years of the Trump first term, we were growing at a faster pace than Obama, but then it started trailing off before the pandemic, and a lot of people think that was because we were going to a trade war with China.
That certainly affected the markets back and forth. I think the president's got the long game in mind, and we do need to get to good trade relationships with China, but they have to understand it's not going to be a one-way deal. They have to start recognizing property rights, intellectual property, but they've started to open up where foreigners can actually own corporations there. To be a full partner in the world economy, they've got to join into the basic structures of free markets where private property matters. They have to give up that communist notion that it's all collective property. And that's what Trump's pushing for, and I think that'll be good. Now, tariffs hurt us, so I don't think it's a great tool, but I think we do have to push China to get to a fair and reasonable trading position.
David, one other thing that's come up during this convention, but I didn't hear much of for the first 3.5 years of the Trump administration, was school choice. That's being featured really heavily right now. Where did that come from? Why is it all of a sudden so important?
Yeah. So at Club for Growth, we've been pushing that for about a month, and it's a realization that a lot of people are facing a huge problem with over 50% of the students in schools that are closed or partially closed this fall. Parents, maybe where they're both working, can't manage it all. And so we suggested when the schools aren't being helpful, they're not working for people, or in the inner city, they're just not safe, that send the money directly to the parents, let the parents choose what works for their kids. If they want to do distance learning in the public school but hire a tutor, let them do that. If they need childcare, let them do that. If they want to pick a private school or a charter school or even a religious school, let the parents pick that. And what we realized is that's now more than just an inner city issue where the schools are in crisis. It's a suburban, it's an everywhere issue that parents need to have the resources to deal with the schools being closed.
Yeah, and something we're going to hear a lot more about, I think, for the rest of the week.
Yeah.
Many thanks now to David McIntosh.
We've been pushing it hard.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. You've been pushing it hard. We're going to hear a lot more about it. It's David McIntosh. He's president of the Club for Growth. Coming up, we're going to